Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Craig Small, Product Line Manager at Bose Professional. Here today with my two guests to talk about L1 Pro systems and the mobile DJ. The track that you heard to lead us into our discussion today is a bit of a departure from DJ centric, but it features our first guest, John Strader, otherwise known as DJ John Strader. Hey, John, how are you doing?
Hello, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And then our other guest is actually one of our Bose sales representative in the Southwest area of the United States, Marco Araujo. Hello, Marco.
Yes. Thank you. How you doing? Hello, everybody.
Marco's also a really talented DJ. So you guys are going to be our subject matter experts today as we talk about the new L1 Pro systems and being a mobile DJ. So what we like about them, how easy or not easy they are to use, and just your overall experiences as DJs.
Excellent.
That track, John, was that was called No Trigger, right? No, your band is No Trigger. The track was called Holy Punks, right?
Yep, that is correct.
Being a DJ, you should probably have a remix version of that, right?
Yeah, I'm working on it currently, actually.
Something with the sub octave in there.
Yeah, there's lots of sub drops.
Cool. So first we want to talk about, we're going to break this down into a few sections. First, portability, and that being like just kind of like loading into your vehicle, and then setting up once you get to the venue, and then of course breaking down and loading back out at night again. So we're going to start off with just a video segment that we created. It's a time lapse, which is kind of funny. That's a time lapse because the whole thing only takes about 50 seconds, but
right.
It's really loading in and out an L1 Pro32 system with the sub 2. So let's take a look at this video just to kind of give folks out there some context of just how easy this thing is to set up.
Cool. Good.
This is me, as you can see, with my sub 2. And then power stand, bottom array section, and top array section, and then connecting the sub-match cable, and boom, that's it.
Everything in one trip.
You're ready to go.
Yeah, it's so great. It's so quick and easy.
So John and Marco are great subject matter experts because you guys use Bose Model 2 and L1S systems and have used them for many years.
Yeah.
John, you were actually one of our beta testers, and Marco, you've had samples for quite a while now. So
right.
Just want to talk about your experience. And Model 2s and 1Ss are awesome systems. Those are super portable for their time. But we want to talk about, we'll go to you first, John. Maybe you can share just some thoughts about your portability experience with the new systems. And you have, if I'm remembering correctly, you have 2 L1 Pro 32s and 2 sub 2s, right?
I do, yeah, and I also have been using for the past few years the L1S system with the B2 bass. So having the experience with those and then transferring over to the new systems has been absolutely incredible. Just as far as like the portability still goes, you know, I do a lot of my traveling in an SUV. I don't mess around with trailers, and what's great is like these two systems fit so well, either in a trunk or if you got a hatchback. Or, you know, just like me, I got a pretty big SUV. Throw them on a cart, and you're basically wheeled in one trip. It's great. It's super easy to set up as well. So,
one of the comments in a review online was a user who said that they thought that they had forgot something because it was so light.
Yeah,
so easy to bring in and out.
Yeah.
How about you, Marco? What are your thoughts on the
right? Well, that's one of the first impressions. I mean, it's amazing how you guys put so much more power and more audio quality in a lighter setup. You know, it's even with the Model 2, it was pretty easy to carry it, you know, from the car to the venue. But this one is so much easier. It still feels like a heavy duty unit, but it's very light, very light.
Do you have a favorite thing about the portability aspect? Either one of you guys? John?
Well, it's good.
Yeah,
I mean, that can break my back. It's good.
yeah, yeah. What's great is that, you don't have to worry about stands. You don't have
That's
to.
good.
Yeah, there's one thing that I just noticed you guys put out about these is the optional carry bag, which you can put the line array and the bass in, which is great. It actually looks like a guitar bag, and just having two of those, it's gonna make setup and load out and transportation even quicker. So I'm excited to get my hands on a couple of those.
Yes.
Yeah, about the breaking your back, Marco. The a Pro 32 is 60% lighter than a Model 2.
Wow. Yeah.
So a Model 2 wasn't like really heavy, but relatively speaking, like it's just so much less effort to from vehicle to venue and then back out again.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, you can notice that, and that's it's amazing. I mean, I think it's kind of like magic how you guys do that, but yeah, it's pretty good, and I think our customers are gonna love that.
Cool. The Pro 32 just started shipping last week with sub ones. The sub twos should be here early February. And just to kind of set the record straight, we're probably going to mostly talk about the L1 Pro 32 and sub twos because we're talking DJs, but DJs could use an L1 Pro 16. That's also a really powerful system with the same 10 by 18 inch sub,
Right.
just in a little bit
Yep.
more compact of a configuration. And then also an L1 Pro 8, for smaller rooms or also for like a monitoring system. I know that, John, sometimes you said you use an S1 as a monitor.
Oh yeah.
So, just imagine an L8 or an L1 Pro 8 as your monitor facing you versus facing the audience. You can kind of get that same kind of dispersion in just a smaller package.
Right. I can tell you in the industry, especially within DJs, used to use the L1 compact on ceremonies or cocktail hour. They switch into S1 Pro because the easy setup with the battery included. And now I think they're gonna take advantage of the L1 Pro 8 because of a little bit more power and similar to the compact, but the brand new features it has.
Awesome. John, you've got you still have the Pro 32s. You had I think you had a Pro 8 initially, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Did you end up using that for any?
What I think is great about this whole new line, as far as like the mixing board goes, it's the same across all the units, right? Which is nice to have that versatility on every single line. But what I like is just like what Marco said, like we're able to supply these smaller systems for different applications, whether it be a cocktail hour, whether it be a dinner room, or a ceremony outside. These systems push for what they need, and especially whatever application that you have them in.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about the form factor and how it differs from a Model 2 or a 1S. In particular, we have done away with the extending legs on the bottom of the power stand.
Right.
So the 1S and the Model 2 were heavier, and so those we have what's called a horizontal force requirement, so that when you walk over to a unit and you push on the side of it, it has to pass a certain requirement so that it doesn't tip over. Obviously, that could be bad for your DJ gig, and also you don't want to injure anybody with falling towers. Because the L1 Pro 32 is so much lighter, we actually didn't need those legs, which just helps make the system more portable. So it still passes those same horizontal force requirements as a 1S and as a Model 2, minus the extending legs. So also the fact that primarily because of that dramatic weight reduction, and you'll also notice that the size of the drivers are much thinner. Those 32 drivers from ceiling to floor in the articulated array design, whereas the Model 2 and the 1S drivers were like 2 1/4, a little bit bigger, which just adds to the mass and that overall weight. Any comments, John, on stability or concerns about stability?
Oh yeah, I have no concerns at all. I mean, I've had these out in the field too, which is great. And the stability is it's perfect. The one thing about that bayonet design that was an issue with me is just, you know, sometimes people would walk into it like a little because they're sticking out almost, you know, where people would be walking sometimes. So having this design is way more compact and way more sleek. And also the weight factor is huge. That's a big noticeable difference between that design and this new design.
How about you, Marco? Any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I noticed that, you know, no legs like the Model 2, but it feels very stable, and you know, once you set it up, it doesn't move at all. It's good.
Awesome. Let's talk about submatch since we're talking about the setup. Submatch is a proprietary cable that delivers power and audio from your L1 Pro 32 to a sub 1 or sub 2, and you can link a second subwoofer via the submatch through port on the back of a sub 1 or sub 2. So submatch is there are some videos online that you can go, and actually we're going to let's queue up that submatch connection video, just a quick little video to show the viewers how easy that connection is. So here you go, connecting to the L1 Pro 32. And then connecting to the sub 2.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite features of the system. When I saw the cable and you just push in, it locks, and you have to do anything else, and so easy to unlock. I mean, it's a great new feature, you know, carrying the power and the signal on the same cable.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Less is more in my department, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, the idea here is, you know, just as few things as possible plugged into the wall. Simplifying
that too.
Cable management, in addition to just being really economical with all of our connections.
Well, what's great that you're offering as well is you do have the standard plug that you can use on the bass bin as well as a line out on the mixing board. So you have both options at all times, which is fantastic, which the previous models did not.
Yeah, if you forget your submatch cable, or you're going to connect a sub 1 or sub 2 to an S1, for example, there's an IEC port, plug it into the wall, and then you can just go analog with the 2 line out or line in connections on the back of those sub 1s and sub 2s.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So the cable itself, it's a 1.5 meters, which is long enough for users to put 2 sub 1s or sub 2s in cardioid mode, which we're going to talk about in a later section.
Cool.
But it's not a long cable. Again, we're all about economy here, but it's plenty long for what we need it to do.
Yep.
Yep.
Before we move on to the next, any DJ tips and tricks, some setup hacks that you guys want to throw out there?
Ooh, Marco, you can go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think when we were talking about it, it's easier with these. For example, with the Model 2, the cable was a little bit, you know, short, and it has to be like certain distance from the Model 2 all the time. With this one, you can actually move the subwoofer a little bit. Let's say DJs like to put a center in front of their DJ booth and have the line array in the side. So now, being a self-power subwoofer, you can go analog and extend that into the center of your dance floor, the DJ booth dance floor. So I think that's another feature that they're gonna love it.
Yeah, I would have to say the setup hack, you guys already took care of it. It's basically having that one cable.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great.
So let's move on to like a typical setup typical like large venue setup or typical like cocktail room setup, stereo versus mono. So John, you've actually done some events this past summer. Events have been a little harder to come by, or I should say a lot harder to come by this past year for obvious reasons, but you have had some DJ gigs. So talk us through, so like a stereo setup, for example, for a larger venue. What are you using?
Yeah, typically for stereo setups, if it's a larger room, I'm always using two systems, one on either side of me, which would fill, a standard ballroom or a medium-sized venue. If the venue is smaller and the guest count is smaller, typically I'd bring out one. I'd bring out one of these systems, and it's very powerful enough to get the point across of of throw, of clarity, of bass response. It's great. And typically, if I had two, I would be running stereo, and one you could run mono, and it's going to sound flawless.
Stereo, you're going just out of your DJ mixer left and right, right?
Left and right, yep. And with the programs I use, I have the option of switching between mono signal to each speaker or complete stereo separation.
Are you stacking your subs together under a table, or are you just keeping your array and subs together on each side of your?
I keep them on the sides, but once we get into the cardioid segment, we can talk about how they'll have the need to be stacked.
Okay. How about you, Marco? Talk us through some of your setups.
Yeah, so something there I think is very important, especially for DJs to understand, is the even tone coverage that these systems produce. So position on this can be like, you can put it in a corner of the room and you will have the even tone coverage, or you can do a stereo with no problem. We like to stack, like you say, stack the subwoofers on the center of the DJ booth to hit the dance floor with more power in there. But even if you use just one with a subwoofer or two subwoofers together, you get a really good even tone coverage in the whole room. Some experience that I had, I'm very fan on the back in the day systems, when in the dance clubs they used to have the sound system not next to the DJ but in the back, and that would force the actual crowd to move forward to the dance floor. And I did that sometimes. We did that one time at the DJ Expo in Atlantic City, where I set up two Model 2s in the front of the booth facing the DJ, and people couldn't hear anything. Like, we didn't bother any of the other vendors because the sound was coming to us. And once the people walk into the booth, they will feel it, that that's all the sound, and it will move them to get closer to the DJ. So it's a very good way to experiment with the sound with the L1 Pro systems.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to use cardioid mode at all, John?
I haven't. I have tested it in a room, but what's great is when we're getting into that cardioid mode, there's a lot of venues out there, whether we're playing outside or if they're in, like an area where it's residential. A lot of times as DJs, we have to actually sign waivers. We have to sign waivers about decibel limits and, whether or not we're bringing in subwoofers, because that's the sound that typically carries, pretty far. But with the cardioid mode, we're able to direct the bass where we need it to the dance floor with canceling out the bass that's going to the rear, which is great.
Yeah. So for those not familiar with the cardioid mode application, the L1 Pro 32, where the sub 1 or sub 2 is a separate component, we have the ability, when you're using two sub 1s or two sub 2s, to stack them in opposite facing directions and engage cardioid mode, which is directional bass. So these low frequencies, as John described, are omnidirectional. So if you're standing behind a subwoofer stack, you're hearing the same thing that folks standing in front of a subwoofer stack are. And if you're playing a wedding reception, that spills into the evening hours, and you've got some residential areas nearby, you may upset some folks.
Yeah.
Cardioid
Right.
mode helps to keep that energy focused. And essentially, so we're going to play a video in just a second here, but this cardioid mode configuration negates the rear firing energy by 10 decibels,
Yeah,
which is
that's
very
great.
significant. So
Which is what is being used in large venues as well, right?
yeah, cardioid mode
So they,
has been used by, you know, pro sound engineers for many years.
Mhm.
We're trying to make it more accessible, you could say, just a little bit
Right.
easier to access, instead of having to rely on you know, sound engineering expertise per se. So you just
Right.
stack them correctly, engage the cardioid mode on the rear firing subwoofer, and you have directional bass.
Yeah, it's
Right.
great.
And it's a well-defined direct bass. And where John was saying about why some venues make you sign a waiver is because you know, they don't know what kind of subwoofer they're gonna bring, and it's that loose
Yeah.
bass, the rattles all the glasses and the bottles, and so
Yeah.
no, this is a well fine-tuned bass that you will get.
Anybody ever come up to you after a gig and say you violated this line of your agreement?
Not you when using Bose products, I'll tell you that.
Right.
Good one.
Right.
So we're going to play a video that shows, so there's a wide shot. Let me describe it first, because I'm not going to talk during the video. There is some audio. And total disclaimer, the audio was recorded on a pair of Shure SM58s, which are vocal microphones. So they're not really going to capture the bandwidth of the system. The idea is just to kind of give you, to give listeners some context of how we negate that rear firing energy. So you're going to see a wide shot of an L1 Pro 32, looking at it sideways, an SM58 in the front of the stack, and then an SM58 behind the stack. And then I'm going to toggle. So what you see on screen is what you're listening to in the audio track. I panned the front track to the left, and the front mic to the left, and the rear microphone to the right. So we'll play it again just in case it
All right.
didn't make total sense, but you can roll that video.
Cool.
So hopefully that translated fairly well in your headphones or your laptop speakers. But when you see the title on the bottom of the screen that says Cardioid Mode Engaged,
Mhm.
you would hear a definite drop off in the energy in that rear-facing microphone. To really experience Cardioid Mode, you have to be there in person, and you have to be standing behind the subwoofers. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a feature that we're really excited about, and
Right.
in discussions with you, John, and other DJs, and Marco, leading up to the launch of the products. As a lot of our viewers know, we have user groups that we engage with throughout the entire development process. So we're talking to mobile DJs, we're talking to singer-songwriters, and we're talking to folks in bands. We're talking to even houses of worship. We're talking to public speaking venues, so that we're not designing products in a bubble. And
Right.
the Cardioid Mode was, I remember that first DJ user night where you guys were talking about those events where
Yeah.
you had complaints from the neighbors, and you just wanted to be able to kind of control everything a little bit more. So
Yeah.
Cardioid Mode is just one more tool that you can help to keep your energy
That's
focused.
great.
Yeah,
That's
it
great.
really is. The versatility is just mind blowing on this new line. It's so great. There's a lot of, just like you mentioned, all those different applications. Everybody's taken care of now. It's awesome.
And not just DJ applications too, like for live sound reinforcement.
Yeah.
If you want to keep the low frequency feedback off the stage, just engage cardioid mode, and same thing, low energy focused out towards the audience, and we can have a relatively peaceful mix on stage.
Yep.
So
can't wait to start using it.
Yeah, same.
Marco, we need to get you one more subwoofer, right?
Right. Yeah, we should get them when we can do the events outdoors.
So I also, just about tying back to typical DJ setups, I know you guys use DJ consoles that are the majority of your interactions with your systems, but how are you using the L1 Pro 32's onboard mixer and the L1 Mix app? John, I'll start with you.
Yeah, the Mix app is great. I think that's another thing that we should definitely bring up, is that these systems have the Bluetooth capability as far as controlling a lot of the different settings through an app. It's great. We have the live, the music, and the speech option, which is great for, again, any sort of application that you're involved in. And you're able to control the treble, the bass, the volume, and just having to be able to walk out into the middle of a room and adjust volume right on your phone. And especially if you're a single op and you're just out there by yourself and you don't have an assistant or a technician, it's such a great, super user-friendly tool to have with these systems.
How about you, Marco? How are you using the mixer and the L1 Mix app?
The first thing, absolutely user-friendly, and I think the app is going to help a lot of people understand tone match setup. It's so easy to have the preset setup, the inputs on your mixer all set up, so you can load it into the unit very fast. So it's pretty good. It's like extension of the unit in your hand. So it's pretty good.
So what John was talking about were what we call system EQs, also known as house curves in the business. So system EQs on your L1 Pro 32's mixer that optimize for recorded music if you're a mobile DJ, or there's a live setting if you're performing live, and then a public speaking option as well. And of course, you have the option of neutral or flat. The recorded music just gives you a little bump in the low end. Live music gives you a little notch in the mid range, and then public speaking gives you a little bit even more of a notch in the mid range. The idea, again, just being to optimize. And Marco was talking about the access to tone match library of presets that you have with the L1 Mix. So on an L1 Pro 32, you have you have two settings for channels 1 and 2. You have a mic setting, which is a dynamic handheld microphone tone match preset, and then you have instrument, which is a piezo acoustic guitar setting. But when you engage L1 Mix, you have the option of selecting customized presets, such as if I use a Shure SM58, I can call up an SM58 that optimizes that channel for this specific microphone. And then there are some EQ curves in there as well for DJ applications, as well as
DJ playback, right?
Yep, DJ playback. Specific bandpass filters as well. Go ahead, John.
I think one thing to note, which is great too, is the inputs are phantom powered. So if you're a musician and you have a pretty sweet condenser mic that you want to use, you can plug that straight into the input, which is a great option to have on these systems as well.
True. Yeah.
Well, yeah. One preset that I really like, I mean, this is not DJ related, but the kick drum preset for in the tone match presets that you guys have, those kick drums make those microphones sound super good. Like the D6, how is this D6, a Beta 52, Shure, they make it. Those presets make your kick drum sound really, really good.
Yeah, that makes such a huge difference in your mix, doesn't it? When you can like
Yes.
translate that like kind of thumping in the chest to your audience.
Yes.
It just brings everything alive.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So I was going to talk about monitoring, how you guys are doing your monitoring other than headphones. We talked about an S1, how you can use an L1 Pro 8 as a monitoring system. But let's move on to audio quality, specifically of an L1 Pro 32 plus a Sub 2, because those are the systems that you guys have been using. And we're not going to throw any of the systems under the bus, John or Marco, but talk to me, John, about what you're hearing when you're using your L1 Pro 32 systems.
Yeah, of course. Well, keep in mind, these systems have 180 degrees worth of coverage. So when you have these set up on either side of you, left and right, you have your own monitor system happening, which is so great. It's almost like you're living on the dance floor with the crowd, and you're able to hear all these, certain parts of songs. Like I'm hearing parts of songs that I've never even heard before on these systems, like instruments and like little things. They just shine right through the drivers. It's amazing. And pretty much once you're using these, you really don't have to have a monitor, because where you have them placed, you're actually hearing the sound like pretty well as far as what it's being pushed out and what's coming back to you.
How about you, Marco?
Yeah.
How would you describe what you're hearing?
It's I really love the sound pressure level that these ones have. I mean, when I got them, I tried here at home and I put the level, I usually put at 12, and I fired my mixer, and it was like, whoa, this is super good. The low frequency response is amazing. For these the electronic music that I like to play. It's and like I always say, it's a difference within other systems, but you hear almost like a recording quality, like a studio quality, how they want to make the track, and you hear that. Like John said, you hear parts that you won't hear in other systems, but you will hear it.
Yeah, it's very true. It makes DJing that much more enjoyable when you're actually hearing the music played back extremely well, like through these systems, for sure.
Yeah, we talk about vocal clarity or instrument separation when we talk about these systems, because it's true. There's a crossover point between the sub and the mid-high array of 200 hertz. So one thing that we're able to achieve was really a separation of those frequencies, but still working together as one piece of music. So your kick drums, bass guitars, left-hand keyboard parts, you're hearing coming thumping out of the subwoofers, whether it's the Sub 2 that goes down to 37 hertz, or the L1 Pro 16 that goes down to 42 hertz. Like it's a well-tuned and just really powerful low-end experience. And then everything else you're hearing come out of the mid-high array, guitar parts, vocals, keyboard parts, percussion, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that all really shines when you're surfing through different genres of music at certain events as well. It's great.
Yeah, there's a real. I remember listening to lots of the test tunes when we're listening every single day throughout the entire development of these tunes, and A/Bing against our legacy systems. Just hearing things in songs that you've heard 1,000 times that you've never heard before.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, it's like it gets the real separation of all the instruments. It gives you the space on the mix of the music. When you play a track, it gives you a good separation of all the instruments, so you hear it more full, more complete.
And let's talk about the volume, the SPL. Were you able to kind of keep up with the room with your L1 Pro 32? So we're talking 128 max SPL with an L1 Pro 32 plus a Sub 2. How about you,
Marco, I don't know about you, but I was fortunate enough to have a couple events with a pretty stacked guest count and a full dance floor. and we were pumping, and it felt good. And it felt good to actually push these systems to the limit during such a, a trying time right now. And being able to just look down and not seeing any sort of clipping happening is paramount, honestly.
Great.
Like, these systems push, and it feels good. It really does.
Yeah, the
I imagine.
the Pro 32, because of that straight line array, and the fact that it's got 32 drivers,
Right.
powered by 480 watts, 1480 if you include the subwoofer, because we've got 1,000 watts going to the sub. That thing
Yeah.
throws really far, so it's got a great, what we call, drop off over distance. And we found with a few of our beta testers who were able to do outdoor events, that it works really, really well with outdoor spaces. As you guys know, sound can die pretty quickly when you're outdoors.
Right. Right.
I've
Yeah, well, no,
Go
with
ahead,
these ones, it's hard to get that the long throw that they have is it's very good. Even with the Model 2 back in before, it's very it's very different. That's why I like how the height is a little bit more than the Model 2,
A little bit more,
right? So DJs usually try to raise their speakers above the heads of the crowd, so it goes all the way to the back. With these ones, you don't have to do that. You don't have to lose that fidelity in the front and just go all the way to the back to the room.
Right.
Very true.
We call that shadowing, right? When you're
Mm-hmm.
have a really tall person standing in front of the speakers, they sort of
Right.
absorb that beam, and folks standing behind the tall person don't get to hear it the way that it was supposed to be heard.
Right.
And which
Yes.
is exactly the reason why it is as tall as it is. You're right, Marco.
Yeah. It's good.
John, are you finding that the sub 2, so as DJs, you guys are playing some content that has a lot of low end, some stuff that we
Yeah.
can't even really hear. We can maybe kind of feel it, but how was the sub 2 able to deliver that low end, low frequency content, John?
Pretty amazingly. The other thing is I push these to the limit in a pretty big room, where I was able to go to the other side of the room and still feel the low end hitting you in the stomach and hitting you in the chest, along with the clarity of the mids and the highs. It was mind blowing to know that the sound is still carrying that far into a room without being, overwhelming or too much. It just sounded great. It was like, oh, I'm actually listening to the music back here. This is really good to hear these things. And then once you get closer, it was like it was even better, and you were kind of just like living into the sound. So again, like the low end response with these new subs are phenomenal for surfing through rock, even jazz, and then once you get into that top 40 and even hip hop with the heavy bass stuff, like, it's great. And I'm not seeing any clipping either, which makes me happy.
Awesome. How about you, Marco?
Yeah, it's very good. I mean, I'm very very good fan of the F1 series, the F1 subwoofer, and the A12. But when I hear this one too, it's amazing how you guys did that on a racetrack woofer. First thing is like, this looks out of this outer space. It's amazing, and but yeah, no, the bass is something that probably a lot of our customers and DJs in the back wanted more on the L1 series, and they're gonna be very very happy with the new subwoofers. And even when I opened the L1 Pro 8 and I hear it for the first time, I was like, wow, it's and then it's a progression going up, so a really good job there.
Yeah, we've talked about it in previous live sessions, and also some of our content that's available on YouTube and on pro.bose.com. The idea behind the racetrack is to just kind of maximize that speaker cone surface area and the excursion area, to give us a more compact package to pick up It's got a better center of gravity. Easy. It takes up less room on stage. Easy to bring from your vehicle to the venue, and still gives you. I always used to call it this surprising size to performance ratio. Like,
Right.
like you said, Marco, like you look at it and you're like,
Yes.
what the heck is that thing? And then you
Yeah.
hear it and you're like, wow, holy smokes, that
Wow. Yeah.
sounds really good.
And it's my impression, but doesn't heat up that much like other subwoofers, or like, once you have it going, it's like it has a lot of power, and it's not like you said, you don't see the clipping or anything. It's very good.
Yeah, it moves a lot of air, and
Right.
kudos to the engineering team. They were able to design a low frequency driver, low frequency subwoofer that is able to cool itself and be as compact as possible and sound amazing
Right.
too.
Yeah.
Do guests come up to you guys and I know like sometimes they'll request songs, but do they ever come up to you to comment on how good, or other comments about audio quality, John?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, and the only times I've ever gotten feedback on sound is when I have my Bose systems out. Like that is 100% me being real and honest and serious, and it's because it's true, right? Like it sounds great, and you're also able. Nope, not at all. I swear, like I'm. It's real. And having fellow photographers at these events and event coordinators, just like they've spoken up. They're like, this sounds great, like they look great, and that's something that I take in with me when I leave those events as well. And also seeing older couples kind of like having conversations in front of these speakers while they're still pushing, right? Like that's amazing too, that you're able to not just like, you're not sitting there like covering your ears and moving out the way, like with a lot of other systems that happens, but
Right.
not with these.
Yeah, that's so. Just to get technical, what John's talking about is a line source versus a point source. Where a line source, we have many drivers in the articulated array working together to kind of propagate sound more efficiently throughout the room, so that they don't need to be screaming at the source. Whereas a point source has to work a little bit harder to propagate that sound the same way. We get less drop off over distance with the line source. How about you, Marco?
Right.
Guests come up to you and talk about what they're hearing.
Yes, and it's funny. Let's say we do some of our clubbing sessions, and we do it at a bar or banquet hall. The owner comes and the manager is like, okay, you're gonna leave those here. It sounds much better than our house system. And he sees how easy it is to set up. Like what John was saying, there's no ear fatigue. Once you're done with the gig, your ears are like, no, you don't have that ringing. So that's another advantage. And guests all the time they come. I hear a lot of DJs, they get more tips when they use the Bose system. The people who pay for the actual wedding, the parents or the grandparents, they come and they say thank you, and it's good.
That's amazing.
Yes.
We should put that as a bullet point on the website.
Right.
I like that.
Yes.
So let's focus subwoofers for a sec, and maybe go back to monitoring systems or like micro PAs, smaller systems that you could use in a cocktail kind of environment, and specifically pairing an S1 with a sub one. So we've got one more video queued up just to show the preferred or the suggested signal flow when you're using an S1 when paired with a sub 1 or sub 2. So if we can play that video, and I'll narrate as we view. So here's there's a pole mount on the side of sub 1 and sub 2, and we also sell a threaded speaker pole that'll be available in February, so you can mount. So we recommend that your audio source go in through the sub, so go into the line in, and then your line out goes to your S1. And here we're plugging into channel 1 on our mounted S1. And then on the sub 1, if there's a line out EQ options, there's high frequency, high pass frequency, high pass filter, or full bandwidth. If you press and hold that button, you'll see that the light turned green. That is a special crossover frequency at 150 hertz that we have optimized for S1. So you simply press and hold the line out EQ button for 5 seconds, and then you'll see that light illuminate green. The reason that we want you to go in through the sub is because this allows the S1 to not work quite as hard, so it doesn't have to work on all those low frequencies. The sub 1 or sub 2 can take care of it, and then the S1 can just kind of shine in the mid-high array band, mid-high frequency.
I'm super excited for that option.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of doing that until I saw Marco's photo of actually him running it and set up. Now I'm going to set mine up and do that too, because depending on certain events and the size of the events, that is an ultimate portable system right there that I'm excited to use.
Yeah, there are so many S1 users out there, a lot of which often ask us for a subwoofer solution. And while we were developing the L1 Pro family, we thought we should address these folks as well. And this seemed like a nice solution. So you've set this up and have been using it, Marco, for a little while?
Perfect timing. Yeah, I set it up to try it, and you know, I was waiting for it. I think the demand is going to be big on that. As like you say, it's a lot of S1 Pro users out there, and they need a subwoofer, and this is a perfect, like, you know, small compact PA system to go out there.
Cool. How would you use this for just smaller rooms? Would you use it for a monitoring system? How would you use this in a DJ gig, John?
I think it's gonna be a lot, you know, it's gonna be for, yeah. I think you can use it anywhere. I see this being used anywhere, because these subwoofers are very powerful, and they're gonna carry a lot of the heavy weight of the gig, right? So, you know, backyard parties, house parties, move to small bar venues, you know, and portability is the key. So, in and out to a gig, just put the small system, you're done.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm stoked to set 2 of them up. I always like to have 2 of everything. And for again, like smaller intimate events, even corporate events too.
Right.
You know, just having that small footprint with the sound and the low end being able to kind of shine through is going to be fantastic.
Awesome. That's pretty much the end of our agenda, guys. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up? I'll go to you first, John.
Thank you. Honestly, like being involved with like the whole beta testing all the way back a couple years ago now, Craig, like seeing these things come together, and especially the mixing board, you know, the versatility of the inputs, the outputs, the sub match, and finally being able to hear it and testing it out in real world events. I'm floored, man, and I'm really excited to continue on using these for my events moving forward.
That's awesome. How about you, Marco?
Yeah, same thing. Thank you for inviting me. And I want to say actually hi to a lot of people from our live music team, Bose live music team, that are joining us, and they asked me to say hi, so that's why I'm doing it.
Amazing. Hi, Mom.
Yeah, this is great. You know, all these products, when L1 came out, like 15 years ago, we created something new for the music industry, and it has grown so much. And now we have these new standard for this segment. the music industry. I think our customers are going to be very happy with them.
Yeah, we're excited as more and more products get out there into the real world. L1 Pro 32 has just gotten out there.
Right.
The Sub 2, as I mentioned, will start shipping in early February. So we're really excited about that. And fingers crossed that 2021 brings us some better luck gig-wise, and that you guys and everybody out there will be way busier than we were in 2020.
Yes.
Because I think the world needs it, quite honestly.
For sure.
Yes, we all need it.
So that is pretty much it. Was going to go to some Q&A. I'm just taking a look at the chat right here. I see a question from Pedro talking about L1 Pro systems with guitar effects pedals. How does L1 Pro behave with heavy guitar sounds? So there's some content out there by Pete Thorne and Jay Leonard J, and some other users as well, some other YouTube reviewers, where they used the L1 Pro 8 as a sort of an FR monitor. FR means flat response, full range flat response. So the idea being you plug in your modeler into an FR, and you can kind of simulate, you can deliver what the modeler promises you, which is usually an amp type, a cabinet type, a speaker type, and sometimes even microphone placement type. And the demos, I will say, are really, really compelling. And although there's no content out there yet with L1 Pro 32, I can tell you that it's coming, where we're going to demo similar things. So using an L1 Pro system as a guitar monitor is a great application. So I hope that answered your question, Pedro. Let's see. People love the racetrack driver. Thank you, Pedro. Are Bose L1 Pro systems taller than the Model 2? So the Model 2 system is just a hair under 7 feet, and the L1 Pro 32 is just a hair over 7 feet. So it's just a tiny bit taller, as we talked about before. That idea being to get over even the tallest of guests, so that we're not having that audio shadowing. Some people are asking if there's going to be a Spanish version of this video. Marco, would you like to translate the entire video for us when we're done?
Sure. We work on it.
Type it up.
Tonlian Brilliant is asking about which model they should use in churches. It depends on the size of the church.
Yeah, I agree.
I would say you are, let's assume it's a mid-size to big church. You're pretty safe with an L1 Pro 16 or an L1 Pro 32 as well.
Also, what are we running through it too, right? Like, do you have a full band?
Exactly.
Or is it just a priest with a lapel mic, or any some readings? All of these systems, it's going to depend on what application's being used. That's all.
Yeah. Also, too, the seat placement, because some churches, they have a seat like auditorium in the balcony, so you might need probably the 16. I think for that case will be better, right? If you have the stage higher and
exactly, because of the J shape versus the straight line array.
Right.
You want that beam to hit the ears of your audience.
Right.
Totally. Let's see. Difference between the Model 2 and the Pro 32. The Model 2, we've got 24 2 and 2.25 inch drivers in the articulated fashion versus 32 2-inch drivers in the Model 2. We're louder, going up to 128 dB max SPL versus 121 dB max SPL in a Model 2. We are 60% lighter than we are with the Model 2. And then we've got the full onboard mixer versus just the single input. Racetrack woofer. What is a racetrack woofer made of? It's a blend. It's a paper blend that we developed. Our engineering team developed. It looks tough. I would say it absolutely is. It's really tough. Some of the validation and reliability testing that these have to go through that include extreme temperatures, drop testing, transportation testing, power testing, unbelievable rounds of power testing. So tough is a good word to describe. Tough, but oh so sweet.
Right.
And oh so sleek.
And oh so sleek.
Like,
yeah, good one. And that's pretty much it. We're just about out of time here. I would like to thank you, John, and thank you, Marco, for bringing your expertise to our forum. We're going to continue to work together and always value your input. You've got some great insights.
Thank you, Craig.
Anything that you want to plug that you've got coming up?
Wish I could.
No, I know you're working on a new record with no trigger, right?
Yes. Currently able to get into a studio and work on a record, which is great. It's the event side of things, which is really tough, but looking forward to later in the year and even, events that are kind of booking into 2022 at this point right now. So.
Wow. Well, that's not bad to have those on your calendar anyway. Right?
Yeah.
How about you,
it's
Marco?
great.
Anything coming up?
Yeah, I don't know if for the people who don't know me, they can find me as a Revo DJ, and I have a couple of songs. I've been working all this 9 months on creating new music to do a shift a little bit, new website, and so something will come out by the end of the month.
Cool. I should mention thanks for reminding me the track that we used for the Cardioid demo. That's one of Marco's tracks.
That was in production with one of my friends. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we wanted something that kind of has lots of low frequency content, and Marco delivered with a really killer sounding track. So thank you guys again. Thanks to the folks on the production team for allowing us to share all this information and play our videos. And thanks to all of you guys for tuning in. This will be on YouTube eventually within the next couple of days or so. And in the meantime, go to pro.bose.com, click on the L1 section, and you can read and learn and watch all about the L1 Pro systems and the Sub 1 and Sub 2, as well as the many accessories that we have available for the whole family. So that's it. I'm Craig. That's John. This is Marco. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.